In this Privacy Office lesson, we will be learning about the UW Data Inventory. Plan your approach. We assume that you've reviewed previous lessons explaining what a data inventory is, what needs to be inventoried, and the purpose of a data inventory. We also briefly introduced the system that we are using to build the data inventory, the TrustArc Privacy Management Platform. There will be some minor review in this lesson. Our goal is that after completing this training, you will be able to describe the pathways for creating data inventory records, select your preferred pathway, define third-party system and business processes, and identify examples in your unit and/or area of responsibility, and prepare a data inventory project plan to identify the business processes, systems, and third parties that need to be inventoried. Your organization or unit may have its own idea of how it would like to prepare to build your data inventory. So that's great. We also understand that some organizations or units may appreciate guidance on getting started with this project. If so, we hope this lesson gives you some helpful ideas for getting started. What works for your organization or unit may be different from this general project plan, and we invite you to adapt this as needed. We'll discuss each of these in more detail on the coming slides, but the overall plan includes the following: identify personnel involved, decide on an inventory pathway, review training resources, develop workflows. This includes both existing and new items, identify and prioritize items to inventory, collect information, and create, complete, and maintain records. You may decide to order these steps in a different way or to revisit steps as needed. Now let's review each step in more detail. One consideration before getting started is deciding who should be involved with this project. Questions to consider include: will there be more than one person involved? Who should help identify what should be inventoried? Who knows the details about the third parties, systems, and business processes, or where to find the details? Who will be assigned to complete the inventory records? Responsibility for creating the records can be delegated. Once you know who will be involved, decide on the inventory pathway that makes sense for your team. We have two main pathways to create data inventory records. The business process questionnaire route relies on a form that is sent to assignees via an email initiated by the Privacy Office. It's a great way to get quickly started, especially inventorying a business process. You do not need to access the TrustArc system to complete the form. There is a one-to-one relationship between business process questionnaires and business process records. So if you have more than one business process to inventory, you will need to request a business process questionnaire for each business process. The business process questionnaire has guidance from the Privacy Office built in, but it does not offer the same built-in guidance for third parties and systems. For these reasons, the business process questionnaire is ideal for fewer records and if you are focusing on inventorying business processes. Furthermore, if you do not also request TrustArc access, you will not be able to view the final record, see an aggregate of your various records, or be able to review the risk profile report. By comparison, the direct access to TrustArc route requires users to submit a TrustArc access request form available on the Privacy Office website. Your request will need to be reviewed and approved by a direct supervisor to be completed. If you have a lot to inventory, or if you need to focus on third-party and system records, this route is a bit easier. Creating records within TrustArc is also similar to filling out a form. To assist, the Privacy Office maintains the Data Inventory User Guide, which provides a checklist of the information we are asking you to submit and includes clarification about what the fields mean and context for the university environment. The key benefits of direct TrustArc access are that you can edit any of your records at any time, access a complete list of the items you've inventoried, and can review the risk profile associated with your organization and unit. You may decide to choose one route or combine the two approaches strategically to collaboratively inventory items with your colleagues. It could, for example, make sense for individuals who manage IT units to have TrustArc direct access, and for individuals who are primarily responsible for business processes to use the business process questionnaires. You can also start with one pathway and change at a later date. Regardless of the route you choose, there are training resources to help you. Visit the Privacy Office website for data inventory resources, including training videos, the Data Inventory User Guide, and Data Inventory Support Hours information and registration. If you have or will pursue direct TrustArc access, you also have access to TrustArc's self-paced training video library and user guide. Lastly, the Privacy Office staff are also available to assist with any remaining questions and can be contacted by writing uwprivacy@uw.edu. At this point, thinking through workflows for getting existing third parties, systems, and business processes inventoried will be helpful. Questions to consider include: when can you fit in inventorying existing items into your day? Do you want to dedicate a block of focused time to get a lot inventoried at a time, or would it work better to spread out inventorying items? Either way, it will be important to set a schedule and deadline to get the work done. If you will need to inventory third parties and systems in addition to business processes, we recommend starting with your third parties and systems, then move on to your business processes. In fact, the ideal entry order, if you own or are responsible for all three, is to start with third party, then the system, and then move on to the business process. However, you can inventory any type of record at any time. The Privacy Office is sending out business process questionnaires when we are aware of existing items to inventory. You can also request business process questionnaires at any time. Workflows for new third-party relationships, systems, and business processes are primarily about making sure you build in inventorying these items as early as possible so that privacy considerations can be integrated into new agreements with third parties, the design of a new system, and the creation of new business processes. While the Privacy Office will send business process questionnaires as a prompt when we are aware that there is a new third-party system or business process to inventory, we may not always be aware of new items to inventory. Before creating records, you may want to consider the best approach forward for your organization or department when it comes to getting your existing third parties, systems, and business processes inventoried. The Privacy Office can assist you by kicking off business process questionnaires to get you started inventorying business processes, supporting users who want direct TrustArc access, and offering project planning consultation to talk through how to best utilize TrustArc for efficiently inventorying your records at our Data Inventory Support Hour. Let's take a moment to review what needs to be inventoried. We're using the terminology here because these are the names used for the three record types of records in TrustArc. We are inventorying both existing and new third-party relationships, systems, and business processes. A third party is a non-UW entity, often a system or service vendor. Research partners and external agencies that we share data with are also third parties. A system is an application, database, or other technological system or process that processes data for a particular business purpose. And a business process is a work-related activity that involves personal data and includes things like collecting research data, storing records about people, recruitment processes, processing financial payments, and many other activities. Units only need to create records for what your unit is responsible for or owns. At a large, complex university like the University of Washington, with its centralized and decentralized structure, many units use systems or services that are centrally managed by other organizations, such as a central UW IT or a college or school IT, or participate in business processes that are managed by central units like Human Resources or the Office of the University Registrar. If this is the case for your unit, you do not need to inventory the records that involve third-party relationships, systems, and business processes that you don't own. We want units to only create records for what they are responsible for or own, because the data inventory is our way of documenting accountability for the risks and responsibilities associated with third parties, systems, and business processes. The units that own or are responsible for these should also be able to provide the most accurate information, and will be the units that would respond to privacy assessments if requested. Units that own or are responsible for making decisions about the overall development, implementation, and maintenance, including privacy and security related measures, should inventory these things. To prepare to inventory existing items, it is helpful to make a list of what will need to be inventoried. Remember, you only need to inventory what your unit owns or is responsible for. Questions to work through include: what business processes involve personal data? What systems involve personal data? What third parties are involved? To help you think through it, you can ask yourself what system or service vendors are involved. Who do you share data with? Who do you receive data from? The Privacy Office developed a data inventory project planning template that we will host online. You are welcome to use this and make adjustments, or you could try a completely different approach. At its simplest, you could create a list using scratch paper and a pencil. If you do decide to use a template, please note that we expect you to make improvements to this over time. Essentially, we are asking you to identify the business processes you own, the systems that are involved, whether you own or use those systems, the third parties that own those systems, if any, and any additional third parties that may be associated with the business process. If you have a lot to inventory, you can prioritize what you inventory based on a few criteria. If you own or are responsible for a third-party relationship or a system that other UW entities use, inventory that early so that the other UW units can refer to that record. Consider the data domain that the personal data involved fall into. Our priorities are in the following order: academic data, high-risk data processing, or items specifically requested by the Privacy Office. Youth data, advancement data, research data, finance data, human resources data, and property and space management data. The Privacy Office's data inventory page provides these domains and our current target date for focusing on different types of data. You may also find it helpful to review our high-risk data processing page to learn more about what counts as high-risk data processing. Lastly, Consider those business processes that are most fundamental or central to your unit. Once you know what you need to inventory, or even as you are filling that list out, you can start working on inventorying your records. Depending on what you know about your various business processes, systems, and third parties, you may need to gather information. If you're using a business process questionnaire, we can add colleagues as assignees to help. Whether you are using a business process questionnaire or TrustArc to create records, you can use the Data Inventory User Guide published on the Privacy Office website as a checklist of items you'll need to enter. This guide also provides more explanation about what the different fields in TrustArc mean. You can use this to assess what gaps in knowledge you have. You'll want to locate sources of information if needed. It's okay to start creating your records even if you don't have all of the information. There are a few required fields to save the record, but only a few. You can begin creating inventory records at any time once you have TrustArc access or by requesting business process questionnaires. If you are using a business process questionnaire, send a list of processes to uwprivacy@uw.edu. If you are inventorying directly in TrustArc, you'll need to submit a TrustArc Access Request form, which is available on the Privacy Office website. Once you have access, you can log into TrustArc at trustarc.com. Keep in mind that you'll need to inventory new items as needed, and that once you've created records, you need to maintain them. If you have TrustArc access, you can update the records at any time. The Privacy Office will also send prompts when it is time to review and update your data inventory records. We have some tips to keep in mind as you work through your data inventory project. First, we want to offer general encouragement to just get started. Do your best, but don't stress. You don't need to wait to get started, even if your unit uses systems that haven't been inventoried by the units that own them. Second, it may be helpful to consider your mindset. We encourage you to pace yourself. Remember that practice helps. Set manageable goals and schedule time to keep yourself moving forward, and lean on your resources when you need help. These resources include the information on the Privacy Office website, training materials, and Privacy Office colleagues. Lastly, and specifically with respect to business processes, try not to get too caught up in the details. Identify your high-level business processes. You might do this by looking at the services listed on your website if you have one, or thinking about how you would describe your unit's processes to someone who is familiar with it. If the business process gets complicated or detailed, that may be a signal to break the business process into smaller pieces. We've covered a lot of information. Let's take a minute to summarize your next step. You may, as I mentioned earlier, adjust this plan as needed, but at a basic level, you'll need to identify who will be involved, decide whether to pursue TrustArc access or request business process questionnaires, review training resources, develop workflows, identify and prioritize items to inventory, collect information, create, complete, and maintain records directly in TrustArc and/or using business process questionnaires, which you can request via uwprivacy@uw.edu. If you have any questions along the way, please contact the UW Privacy Office at uwprivacy@uw.edu. Thank you for participating in this training.